Hey guys, it's time to buckle up because we have another good story from Roller Reddit. I just caught my M29 fiance F31 in bed with my father M54. This is by far the most surreal thing that has ever happened to me. This happened about 2 days ago, and I still feel like I'm having a nightmare. I'm sorry in advance for the length. I haven't spoken to anyone about this, and I just needed an outlet. So my fiance and I have been together for 6 years, and I proposed to her in January of last year. We were supposed to get married in June, but then the pandemic hit. Although I didn't mind having a very small, intimate wedding, she insisted that we should wait because she wanted to have the wedding of her dreams. We planned on getting married later this year, but I guess those plans are at an end. About 4 months ago, she started acting differently. She became very distant, wasn't as affectionate as she usually is, and she began to act really sketchy, i.e., coming home late at night, being possessive of her phone, and lying about her whereabouts. I didn't really suspect her of cheating, but instead attributed this to maybe cold feet. I asked her if she was having second thoughts about marrying me, and she assured me that she was just stressed out with work. This made sense to me because she had just gotten a promotion around this time. Around the same time, she also got really close to my dad. Of course, I didn't think anything at all about this. Who on earth would be concerned about his dad and fiancé developing a close relationship? My dad and mom are divorced due to infidelity on his part. My father is very wealthy and is a bit of a narcissist. This became more obvious to me now than before. Around Christmas, my wife and I were supposed to go spend the holidays with my mother's side of the family as well as my brother and sister. She made up some excuse about how she wanted to spend the time with some of her family and that she needed to get some work done anyway. She insisted that I should just go on my own and that we would spend New Year's together. I hadn't seen my mom in a while, and so I agreed. Coincidentally, my father was going out of town around the same time. I just made this connection as I was reflecting and realized that they probably spent that time together. My siblings and I usually spent Christmas with one parent and New Year with the other. We alternated between the two every year. As you can probably guess from the fact that we never spent such holidays together. My mom and dad can't stand the very sight of the other. Neither side of the family get along, and it has been very hard to find a balance and not take sides. As I mentioned, I never really suspected her of cheating on me until one day she was receiving calls from a number saved under her best friend's name. It was saved as Karen 2, fake name. This made absolutely no sense to me because the time she was receiving these calls was when we went to dinner with Karen and her husband. I could see Karen in front of me, and she wasn't on her phone. When I looked at the phone, and then at my wife, she made the most look I've ever seen. I didn't say anything while we were there, but I asked her about it once we were on our way home. Her excuse was that it was another Karen from work. I asked to see her phone and she refused. She said I'd be invading her privacy, and that she didn't appreciate getting accused of something so sinister. I brought up how she'd been acting sketchy of late, and that her refusing to show me her phone was only pointing to her doing something shady. She swore up and down that she wasn't and that the conversations in the text messages were personal. After a lot of back and forth, I stupidly let it go. Fast forward to now, and her behavior didn't change much. It only got progressively worse with her always denying anything was going on. On Monday, I was scheduled to go on a business trip for a week. Fortunately, in this case, my flight got canceled due to snowstorms, and my trip got postponed. When I returned home, I came back only to find my dad's car parked outside. It's my dad. He's probably here visiting, right? When I go inside, I can't see him nor fiance anywhere. I shout out asking where they are, and I can hear scrambling upstairs in my bedroom. When I head towards my bedroom, my fiance is frantic and insisting I wait for her downstairs. I ask her where my father is, and she says she doesn't know. But his car is parked outside. He must be here. I get to the bedroom door and it's locked. I ask her to open it, and she says she's getting dressed. This entire time, the thought of them together didn't even cross my mind. I ask her to open the door, and again, she says I should wait downstairs. Now, I could hear multiple footsteps from inside, and that's when it actually occurred to me what might be happening. In a moment of panic, I kicked the door down, and I wish I never saw what I did. My dad was in my bedroom struggling to put his pants on with my fiancée undressed, wearing only her underwear. I was completely shocked. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. My fiancée became hysterical and started screaming something along the lines of "It's not what it looks like. I can explain." The entire time I was staring at my father, watching him get dressed. At one moment, I thought to myself if I should just beat the out of him right then and there. But I couldn't. I didn't have the strength to. I felt so defeated. I just went back into my car with the suitcase I planned on taking on my business trip and left. My fiancé tried to stop me and even tried to get into my car as I was driving away. I checked into a hotel and have been here since. I've been bombarded with calls and texts from both of them, as well as other family and friends. I haven't spoken to anyone nor have I replied to any of their calls. This really hurts. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Why would they do this to me? Why would he pick my fiancé of all people? I've spent the past 2 days crying and drinking, and I don't even have the slightest clue on what I'm supposed to do. Has anyone gone through something similar, and if so, how on earth did you find the strength to move forward? I could go on, but it would just turn into a rant. How am I supposed to cope with this kind of betrayal? I need advice. Anything. Story 2. Was the cheater. Please no judging. This took me forever to talk about and I feel like I can finally face it. So I haven't been with my ex in over 2 years now. I was with her for 6 years with a 3 to 4 month split in between. In the beginning everything was fine, as it is in most relationships, but what happened, I just started messaging someone and boom, pictures were exchanged. I felt guilty, but didn't stop. Then I noticed a lot of girls were into me just cause I had a girlfriend and that lead to more pictures. I never let it get past that at that time. After a while I found out my ex had first cheated on me and I didn't know at the time. Not that it justifies what I view as doing. One day she found out about one of the girls which we were mutually friends with. To be fair, my ex also made out with her while we were drinking, and after that she got angry. At first, we talked and worked past it, but months, more than 6, later she began to hang out with some guy and decided to break it off with me because she wasn't over the pictures. Right away she was dating this guy. Meanwhile, I did what any guy would do. After about 4 months we reconnected because she wanted to get back with me. We got back together and things were good, but she kept talking to another guy that we had problems with before because he made her doubt the relationship in the beginning. It was the reason for our first fight when we first got together. After a while of that I began to a job with late nights and she would stay home. Sometimes I would be locked out and would spend an hour to 2 in the winter cold knocking to get into the house. During those long nights I began to make friends again and pictures began to be exchanged again. After about 2 years of pictures with different girls, I ended up actually meeting with someone 2 up, and another person too. They gave me attention I didn't have and I liked it, unfortunately. Well, my ex caught me messaging one, and it began an argument, but we worked past it over time. But then one day we had been arguing over some family issues, her family an issue that would require a whole post itself, and she said she was leaving. I don't think she understood just how long I had been fed up with this issue. I think at the time she was making an empty threat, so I would try to stop her, but when she saw me calmly sit next to her and tell her that it was all right and that we had given the relationship our best try, she was surprised. We split for a week but ended up speaking again. At this point, I helped her get a job because the whole relationship, I was the only one working the entire time. I never expected her to work or made her work, but after our recent split I realized we both needed to grow up. So a friend offered a job and she got hired right away. What I didn't know was that it would be the beginning of the end. Shortly after getting this job, she began to go out more with her gay friend. I always hated him because I felt like he never truly cared about her. But after a while I began to realize she'd never answer while with him, and if she did, she acted really nervous. I am not entirely sure, but I believe she began to up with someone from work because after some time we officially ended the relationship, and sure enough she began to date someone she worked with right away. Ever since the end of that relationship I've grown a lot, and I finally feel happy with myself. It always made me feel guilty that I up with 2 girls and exchanged pictures with so many more. I can't even come up with a number. I always regret it and never understood why I did it. I understand I'll probably get a lot of hate for this, but I have grown up and I wanted to put everything out there because I've never admitted it. I'm at a point in my life where I think I can say I can finally date again without feeling the need to exchange again. I have not dated ever since my ex, and that was 4 years ago. I was always afraid of falling into that cycle again and didn't want to put someone through that again. To this day my ex doesn't know how many people, but I do not want to return to that lifestyle. I am not the same and I hope someone will see that about me, but until then I can only hope. Please don't be too harsh. I have worked past all that and it took me a long time, but if you actually read all this, thank you. Sorry for any typos. Story 3. My fiance cheated on me after 4 years together. Found out his secret he's been dealing with for years. So my fiance, 21M, and I, 22F, had just gotten an apartment together after being together for 4 years. We got engaged a few months ago, and everything has been fine between us except for a few minor disagreements, and things were going pretty well. That is until I found out. I've been having a weird feeling that he has been hiding something for a few months now, but always chalked it up to insecurities. I'll admit once we moved in together, this feeling overwhelmed me, and while he was walking our dogs, I decided to look at his phone. I know, huge mistake, but what I found has made me sick to my stomach. I found emails where he had logged into multiple dating sites to look for trans women. I also found an Instagram account that he had made to interact with a trans woman he had met in college and told me was just someone who wouldn't leave him alone. And lastly, porn searches targeted towards trans women. I confronted him, of course, and he came clean to me about how he can't get the thought of being with a trans woman out of his head, and that he sexts the women from his school that he has no interest and doesn't know why he keeps going back. He also blamed porn, saying it's why he has these urges. I feel sick and lied to, and I'm not sure how to deal with this information. I agreed we could work on things because he broke down so badly and seemed genuinely upset, but I can't stop thinking about what I saw, and I'm not sure how to go forward with moving on. Any advice is appreciated. You've been given this gift of truth. You found out before your lives were inextricably intertwined. Leave and find someone who you are compatible with sexually and morally. The right man won't lie and cheat, and what he's doing is cheating. Just because he is exploring his kink doesn't mean that it's not cheating. I think something that would hurt me is that he sort of deceived you for years because there are men out there that fetishize trans women. If I were you, I'd think, did he really have feelings for me? Was he using me so he could deceive people that he was in a regular relationship? During intimacy, was he thinking of me or a trans woman? Majority of people think sexting is cheating. Don't give him hope that your relationship is going to work just because he starts crying. You're still young, you can move on. I will be honest, at first I did have those same thoughts and doubted our whole relationship. My mom married a man that turned out to be using her, so no one knew he was closeted because he was ashamed. So my mind kind of jumped to that conclusion automatically. But I don't believe our relationship was fake at all. I feel like there are always signs, and he's never shown me anything other than love romantically and sexually, which is what makes everything hurt worse, because I know he loves me.